The humans never wanted war with the Zalari Empire. Earth was still recovering from its own internal struggles, and the last thing anyone needed was an interstellar enemy. But when a human research ship crossed into Zalari space by accident, the alien empire responded with violence. Their ships arrived in Earth's orbit within days, and they did not come to talk. Captain Aaron Vale had fought in the Terran-Mars conflict 10 years ago. He had seen death and betrayal, but nothing prepared him for this. The Zalari were taller, faster, and they had technology far beyond Earth's. Their queen ruled with an iron will, and her voice alone could silence armies. No one expected her to personally lead her fleet into battle. Cities fell. Satellites were destroyed. Earth's defenses crumbled one by one. Humans tried to fight back, but they were pushed further into the shadows. Then something strange happened. The Zalari queen didn't strike the final blow. Instead, she ordered her troops to stop. She demanded to speak with one human, and one only, Captain Aaron Vale. Aaron was flown aboard the flagship of the Zalari Empire. Guards lined the corridor, their eyes cold and unblinking. At the end of the hall stood a woman cloaked in light and gold. She was beautiful in a way that didn't feel human. Her skin shimmered faintly, and her crown pulsed with energy. Her eyes locked on Aaron as if she had known him for years. "You have shown courage," she said in a voice that echoed without sound. "You defended your people even when you had no hope. My daughter has chosen you." Aaron didn't understand at first. He looked around the throne room, confused. Then a soft voice spoke from behind the queen, and he turned. A young Zalari girl stepped forward. She was graceful, almost delicate, yet something about her gaze made Aaron freeze. Her dress was woven with stars, and her voice was calm but firm. "I've seen him fight. I've watched his mind. I know his soul." Aaron took a step back, unsure if he was being tested or punished. "I have chosen him as my protector," the princess continued. "And as my future mate." The hall went silent. Even the guards didn't breathe. Aaron stared at the queen, trying to find words. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a declaration. The fate of humanity now hung on something far stranger than war. The queen stepped down from her throne. "Do you accept her choice, human?" she asked. Aaron's heart pounded. He looked at the girl. She didn't flinch. There was no fear in her eyes, only belief. He had trained for war. He had survived loss. But nothing had prepared him for a moment like this. His voice cracked as he answered, "I don't know what this means, but I won't abandon anyone who needs me." The queen watched him closely, then gave a slow nod. The guards lowered their weapons. The war had stopped, not because humans won, but because the alien princess had chosen one. Aaron was given quarters aboard the Zalari ship. He was treated with honor, yet watched like a hawk. The princess visited often, sometimes asking about Earth, other times just sitting beside him in silence. Each day, the distance between them grew smaller. But in his heart, Aaron still wondered what fate had brought him here. Aaron sat by the large window of his guest chamber, staring at the stars that drifted past the ship. The Zalari flagship moved silently through space, powerful and smooth. Yet inside him, a storm was growing. He was a soldier, not a prince. He didn't belong in royal halls or in alien palaces. He had no idea why the princess had chosen him. He replayed the moment in his head again and again, her eyes calm and serious, her voice full of certainty. He had expected death, not an offer of alliance or marriage. Even now he wondered if it was a trick. Maybe the queen wanted to keep humanity under control by binding it to the throne. Maybe it was a test. The door opened softly. Princess Lyrea stepped inside, her dress catching the silver light. She didn't speak right away. Instead, she walked to the window and stood beside him. Her presence was quiet, but strong. Aaron glanced at her, unsure what to say. She looked at the stars too, as if they held the answers. "Do you hate me for this?" she asked suddenly. Her voice was softer than before. Aaron blinked in surprise. He shook his head. "No, but I don't understand it either." She nodded, slowly, as if she expected that answer. Then she turned to face him fully, her eyes searching his face. "You think I chose you by accident," she said. "But I've seen your mind. When your ship was captured, we scanned everyone on board. Most were afraid, broken, or angry. But your thoughts were clear. You thought of your crew. You thought of peace, not revenge." Aaron swallowed hard. He had forgotten the scans. "Your mind was like fire and darkness," Lyrea said. "And I needed someone like that. Not just to stop this war, but to change everything after it." Aaron felt a chill. She didn't speak like a girl. She spoke like someone carrying a heavy crown. Someone who didn't want more death. He stood up slowly. "Your people don't like me. They stare like I'm dirt beneath their boots. Even your guards look at me like I'm a bug. You chose me, but did they agree?" Lyrea looked away, a flicker of pain in her eyes. "No, they didn't. My mother allowed it, but the High Council is furious. They think I've lost my mind." Aaron stepped back, feeling the weight of it. He wasn't just caught in politics, he was the center of it. His presence was breaking thousands of years of tradition. Zalari royalty never mixed with outsiders. This wasn't just a choice, it was rebellion. And somehow he was part of it. Then why go through with it? He asked. Lyrea lifted her chin, proud and firm. "Because peace requires a price. And I am willing to pay it. Our empire is dying slowly inside. We pretend to be perfect, but we are cold and cruel. I want something different." "You are different." Before Aaron could reply, a deep rumble shook the chamber. The lights flickered. A siren echoed faintly in the background. Lyrea's expression changed. She turned toward the door, already moving. Aaron followed without thinking. The hallway outside was filled with guards and rushing officers. Something was wrong. They were taken to the command deck. The Queen stood in the center, her calm face now stern. Holograms of enemy ships floated. Around her, Aaron stared in shock. These weren't human ships. They weren't Zalari either. A third fleet had arrived unknown and armed. Their symbol was dark red, shaped like a claw. "Who are they?" Aaron asked. The Queen glanced at him. "The Arkan Dominion. They follow no law, no treaty. They saw our war and waited like scavengers. Now they strike while we are weak." Aaron clenched his fists. It was the worst possible time. Earth had no defenses left. The Zalari were divided. And now a real enemy had come. The Queen turned to Lyrea. "Stay hidden. They will target the royal line first." But Lyrea shook her head. "No, I must speak to them." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Do not defy me." But Lyrea stepped forward boldly. "I'm not defying you. I'm choosing to lead. Just like you taught me." Aaron watched in silence. He had seen many commanders, many generals. But in this moment, the princess was something more. Not just royal, not just brave. She was willing to stand in front of an enemy to protect those who hated her. And that made Aaron step closer, heart steady. "I'll go with her," he said. "If this is a message of peace, she won't go alone." The Queen stared at him, then finally nodded once. "Then so be it. The future of both. Our races now depends on the two of you. Do not fail, asterisk." Aaron stood beside Princess Lyrea in the small Zalari transport ship. The lights inside glowed with soft green pulses, and the air smelled faintly of something sweet and metallic. Lyrea was calm, but Aaron could feel tension in her posture. She was prepared for anything, even death. He sat down across from her, eyes locked on hers. "Do you trust them?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, the Arkan Dominion doesn't talk. They conquer. but sometimes they pretend to talk first. Aaron nodded slowly. That meant this was a trap, but Lyrea still chose to go. And now so did he. Because he couldn't let her face it alone. The pilot's voice echoed through the cabin. Docking. With the Arkan flagship in 30 seconds. Aaron clenched his hands. He had never seen the Arkans in person. All he knew were the horror stories, how they destroyed moons, how they enslaved entire systems, how they erased cultures without a second thought. He wondered if he would live to tell the story. The ship landed smoothly inside the enemy hangar. The doors hissed open. Guards in black armor waited for them, each one holding a long staff tipped with glowing red blades. Their helmets looked like twisted animal skulls. Aaron stepped forward, keeping himself between Lyrea and danger. She didn't stop him. An Arkan commander approached them. His armor was etched with scars, and his voice was like gravel. Zelari. Princess, human dog. Welcome to the last moment of your lives. Aaron narrowed his eyes, but Lyrea stayed composed. We came to talk, not to kneel. The commander laughed, a low sound that echoed across the walls. You have no army. The commander growled. You have no fleet. Your empire is weak, and your pet human means nothing. Lyrea stepped closer. You're wrong. He means everything, because he represents the one thing you fear. The Arkan tilted his head. And what's that? Lyrea's voice was clear and cold. Change. Aaron watched her closely. She wasn't bluffing. She wasn't scared. She believed every word. And in that moment, he understood why she had chosen him. Not for strength, not for war, but because she believed he was already the start of something different. Something the old powers feared. The Arkan commander growled. Enough. Speak your message, then crawl back to your queen. Lyrea didn't flinch. The war between humans and Zelari is over. I ended it. Together, we will rebuild something new. But if you attack either of our people, we will stand together. You will not face a broken earth or a divided empire. You will face both. The commander laughed again, but it sounded more nervous this time. Big words from a child princess and a soft-skinned human. Aaron stepped forward, eyes sharp. You think we're soft because we don't conquer. Like you, but you've never seen Earth when it's angry. We don't fight to win. We fight because we have no other choice. And that makes us dangerous. For a moment, the hangar was silent. Then the commander turned and barked an order. Guards stepped aside. Go, you've delivered your message. You will get no treaty, but we'll think before we strike. Because now we know you're not alone. Aaron kept his expression firm. He didn't trust them, not one bit. But they had survived the first step. Back on the Zelari ship, Lyrea sat beside him again. Her fingers trembled slightly as she poured tea into 2 small crystal cups. She was quiet for a while, then finally spoke. I thought they might kill us. Aaron took a sip of the tea. Me too. She looked at him, then smiled faintly. But you stood with me anyway. He nodded. That's what soldiers do. We don't run when it matters. Lyrea leaned her head back against the smooth metal wall. They fear us now, not because we're strong, but because we're together. Aaron agreed. It wasn't about weapons. It was about unity. The Arkans had never seen that before between species. Suddenly, the door opened. A royal guard stepped inside. The queen requests your presence, both of you. Lyrea stood quickly. Aaron followed. They were led back to the throne room. The queen was waiting, and this time, the High Council stood around her. Their faces were cold and unreadable. One council member stepped forward. Your actions were reckless, princess. You risked the royal line. You defied orders. And you, human, you dared speak for us. Aaron's hands balled into fists. But before he could speak, the queen raised a hand. Enough. The chamber fell silent instantly. The queen looked at them both. Tell us what happened. Lyrea repeated. Every word, every threat, every response. Aaron stayed quiet until she finished. Then the queen looked directly at him. "And what do you believe now, human?" Aaron looked around the room, then at Lyrea. "I believe peace is possible. But only if you let her lead," the council murmured. The queen did not smile, but she nodded once. "Then we move forward. Together, prepare the Alliance Chamber. From this day, Earth and the Zalari Empire stand united. And this bond will begin with you too." The Alliance Chamber was larger than Aaron had imagined. Its ceiling stretched high above, shaped like a dome of stars. Soft glowing threads of light connected points across the walls, each one representing a world now under Zalari protection. Earth's symbol had just been added, glowing with a pale blue hue. Princess Lyrea stood at the center platform beside Aaron. She wore a robe stitched with both human and Zalari symbols. Her voice was strong as she spoke to the gathered leaders, some holograms and others in person. "We offer more than a truce. We offer a bond that will reshape the stars. We were enemies. Now we are allies." Aaron wasn't used to public speaking, but he stepped forward when Lyrea looked at him. "I was a soldier. I lost friends, I lost trust. But today, I stand beside someone who was once my enemy. And I do it with pride. Because peace isn't weakness. It's the hardest thing we've ever tried." There was silence in the chamber. Then, slowly, nods began to appear. Alien voices murmured through translators. It wasn't full agreement, but it was respect. That was a start. Lyrea turned her head slightly, and Aaron saw the small smile that crossed her lips. She had taken the first step. Now it was his turn to walk with her. After the meeting, they walked alone in the royal garden. Strange flowers glowed around them, their petals soft like feathers. The air was warm, filled with the sound of quiet alien birds. Aaron sat on a low bench, his thoughts heavy. Lyrea sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap. "Do you regret it?" she asked. He looked at her, surprised. "Regret what?" She tilted her head slightly. "Being chosen. Being bound to a future that isn't yours." Aaron thought about it for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "No, I don't regret it. I think I was meant to be here." Lyrea looked at him closely. "Do you say that because you believe it or because you want to protect me?" He smiled, "Both." She didn't respond right away. Instead, she reached out and gently touched the edge of his wrist armor. "You are the only human I trust. That makes you dangerous to them." Aaron didn't ask who them was. He already knew. Not everyone in the Zalari court supported this peace. Many feared change, others feared humans. Some simply feared losing power. He could feel their eyes every time he walked through the halls, but he didn't care. Because he had already chosen his side. The next morning, an explosion rocked the inner courtyard. Alarms screamed through the palace. Guards ran in every direction. Aaron grabbed his plasma sidearm and ran toward the smoke. Lyrea was already ahead of him, surrounded by her guards. Her face was pale, but her eyes were filled with fire. "It was a drone," one of the guards reported. "Disguised as a delivery unit. It came from one of the outer colonies." Lyrea turned to Aaron. "The Arkan Dominion?" He shook his head. "Too soon. This was local. Someone inside doesn't want the alliance to happen." A sharp voice broke through the chaos. Counselor Therak, one of the oldest members, approached with two of his own guards. "This is what happens when you trust a human. You brought war into our heart." Aaron stepped forward, calm but firm. "This isn't war. This is fear, and you're feeding it." The counselor's eyes narrowed. "You think we'll follow you just because the queen allowed this bond? You are a symbol of weakness." Lyrea moved beside Aaron, standing tall. "No, he's a symbol of change. And if you strike at him, you strike at me." There was a long silence. Then the queen herself arrived. Her robes swept the broken stones of the courtyard. Whoever did this will be found and punished. This peace is not a choice anymore. It is the future. And those who fight the future will be left behind. Aaron felt the air shift around him. The queen's words were final. Even the counselor stepped back. Lyraea took Aaron's hand without hesitation. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was strong. In that moment, the war felt far away. And yet, he knew it wasn't over that night. He stood at the edge of the palace tower. Stars blinked over the horizon. Lyraea joined him, silent at first. Then she whispered, "They will try again." He nodded, "Then we'll stop them again." She smiled, the kind of smile that carried pain and hope all at once. Aaron turned to face her. "If I fall, promise me you'll continue." She shook her head. "No, we either stand together or we fall together." He didn't argue, because he knew she meant it. And so did he. Aaron trained in the palace arena every morning. The guards watched him with narrowed eyes, but he didn't care. He wasn't there to impress them. He was there to stay sharp. Trouble was coming. He could feel it in the air, in the way council. Members whispered and soldiers stiffened when he passed. Lyraea sometimes joined him, not to fight but to watch. She sat high above on the balcony, her long cloak flowing in the breeze. Her presence gave Aaron strength. She didn't see him as a threat or an outsider. She saw him as her partner, her protector. And maybe, just maybe, something more. News arrived from Earth. A small fleet had entered Zalari space unauthorized. They were human ships but marked with mercenary colors, rogue commanders who refused the alliance. The Queen called an emergency council meeting. The room filled with tension like smoke before a fire. No one wanted another war. But the message was clear. These ships claim to represent Earth, a general said. But they're not from any official body. They're freelancers, rebels, pirates. Lyraea stood from her seat. Then we show them who truly represents humanity. Aaron, will you go speak with them? He looked at her and gave a firm nod. They gave him one ship and a small escort. It wasn't much, but it wasn't meant to be. This wasn't a battle. It was a message. As his ship approached the rogue fleet, he opened a channel. The man on the screen was scarred, older, eyes like glass. "So you're the Queen's pet," the man sneered. Aaron didn't blink. "I'm human, just like you. But I chose a path. That doesn't end in ash. You came here for what? Gold? Or are you just afraid of peace?" The rogue commander laughed. "Peace is a lie. You've forgotten what they did to us." Aaron leaned closer to the screen. "No, I remember everything. That's why I don't want to bleed again." The call ended. Aaron waited, holding his breath. Then slowly one ship turned away, then another. The commander's ship stayed still. Finally, it too turned and vanished into the void. When he returned, the Queen said only 5 words. "You've done Earth proud today." Lyraea met him in the gardens that night. The moon above them was not Earth's, but the peace under it felt the same. "You are changing minds," she said, "and shaking hearts." He laughed gently. "I'm just surviving one day at a time." She turned and touched his arm. "You do more than survive," she said. "You give people hope, even the ones who hate you." Aaron looked down at her fingers. "Do you think that's enough?" She smiled softly. "For now. And when it's not, I'll be beside you." But not all was calm. In the shadows of the palace, enemies gathered. Counselor Theric met with a figure hidden beneath a cloak. "The princess is too close to him," the people whisper. "They begin to believe he belongs here." The cloaked figure answered in a voice cold as space. "Then we take her away." Guards loyal to Theric moved swiftly. Late at night, they entered the royal wing. Lyraea's personal guards were drugged. The princess was taken silently. No alarms were triggered. No one knew until the sun rose. Aaron was the first to find her chamber empty. Panic slammed into his chest. He called the palace security. The queen arrived within minutes. Her face was still, but her eyes burned. "Find her," she said. "Use every ship, every soldier, every sensor. I want my daughter back." Aaron didn't wait. He armed himself, stole a scout ship, and launched alone. He knew where to look. Therak had once warned him to stay away from the lower moons. That's where he went first. As the ship descended, he saw the ruins of an abandoned fortress. A signal blinked weakly from inside. He landed in silence, moving through stone halls with his weapon ready. Then he heard it, a voice, her voice, weak but alive. "Aaron?" He followed the sound, heart racing. He found her chained to a wall, bruised but unbroken. He ran to her, breaking the restraints with his bare hands. "You came," she whispered. He smiled through gritted teeth. "Of course I did." But they weren't safe yet. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Soldiers were coming. Aaron pulled her close and shielded her with his body. "Stay behind me," he said. "No one touches you again." Aaron stood firm in the center of the ruined hallway, his plasma rifle raised. Lyraya stayed behind him, holding the side of her ribs. The sound of boots grew louder. Shadows moved through the broken archways. He counted 6 armed men, all wearing black armor marked with the crest of Therak. The first soldier raised his weapon. Aaron didn't hesitate. His shot hit center mass. The guard dropped. The others returned fire. Aaron dove behind a broken pillar, shielding Lyraya with his body. The stone cracked and sizzled around them, but he didn't stop firing back. He wasn't going to lose her now. One of the traitors tried to flank from the side. Aaron rolled low, caught him in the leg, and finished him before he screamed. Lyraya crawled beside him and passed him an energy clip. "You should have brought an army," she said breathlessly. Aaron gave a tight smile. "I did." "You?" The last 2 soldiers hesitated. One backed away slowly. The other kept firing until his gun overheated. Aaron charged forward, tackled him to the ground, and ended it. Silence returned to the hall. Lyraya sat back against the wall, chest rising and falling fast. Aaron leaned close, checking her injuries. "You're bleeding," he said. She shook her head. "It's nothing." But he could see the purple bruises, the swollen ankle. "We're getting out of here now," he said. He lifted her in his arms. She didn't resist. Her head rested against his shoulder, warm and trembling. "I knew you'd come," she whispered again. They reached the scout ship minutes later. More traitors were arriving from the mountains. Aaron fired the ship's engines and blasted into the sky. Alarms screamed behind them, but they didn't. "Slow down." He sent a coded message to the queen. "Lyraya is safe. I'm bringing her home." Back in the capital, the queen stood in front of the High Council. Councillor Therak was silent, his hands bound. The other councillors looked pale. The queen's voice was calm but cold. "You tried to break the future. You kidnapped my daughter. You betrayed the empire for fear of change. You will not be forgiven." Therak was stripped of all power. The queen sent him into exile on a frozen moon, alone and forgotten. The council remained, but now they listened more carefully. Lyraya returned in a golden hovercar, her wounds treated, her spirit unshaken. She stepped out holding Aaron's hand in front of the crowd. The people of the empire cheered. It was not just for the princess, but for the human beside her. Aaron, once a stranger, now stood at the heart of their future. Soldiers saluted. Children waved from rooftops. He didn't smile much, but his eyes softened when Lyraya squeezed his hand. That night, the queen called a gathering in the Hall of Stars. All leaders, human and alien, stood together. The queen looked out across the sea of faces. "My daughter chose him," she said, "not because he was powerful, but because he was loyal, because he stood when others ran, because he gave his life to protect what he barely knew." Lyraya stepped forward. Her voice was clear. I will lead our people into peace, but I will not do it alone. I choose Aaron Vale, not just as protector, but as my bondmate. There was silence. Then the sound of thousands rising to their feet. Cheers echoed through the city. Aaron stood beside her, not as a hero, not as a soldier, but as someone who had earned the trust of an entire world. He didn't speak grand words. He just turned to Larea and said, "I'll never leave your side." She smiled with tears in her eyes. "And I'll never let you fall." Months later, the alliance held firm. Earth and Zilari forces trained together. Technology was shared. Trade flowed like never before. And deep in the palace garden, Aaron and Larea walked together, hand in hand, under twin moons that glowed like silver fire. Peace had come not through force, but through one brave choice. When a young Zilari child asked the queen one day, "Why?" "Him," she knelt down and smiled. Because when everything broke, he didn't run. He stood. And in the end, love is not chosen by rules. It's chosen by courage.